Now that's something to think about.
Or we're going to give you $1 million. Or we want it filmed on the back lot at Universal.
That sounds like a totally different movie right there. But we can make that movie too. We can make that movie instead. How about that? Why don't you let me do the Dark Universe and we'll see what we can do with it.
There we go. That's where we're headed towards.
Welcome, Earthlings, to the latest episode of the Wreak, Havoc Film Bust podcast. I'm your host.
I'm nowhere near ready.
I'm your host, Dan Sellers, along with my, let's see,
Boogieing.
my boogeyman co-host,
Boogie, Sammy Castle.
This is our first new episode of the show in 2018. And we're going to change things up a little bit. For the first time, we're going to do a episode that is a top 10 list. We've been talking about doing this for a while. We're now finally getting around to it with the new year. So today we're talking about our favorite science fiction films. And Sammy is furiously writing his coming up with his
fiercely
top
making
10.
decisions.
He didn't have the time that I had to sit down and write out all mine, which actually I have a lot here. But
your list is considerably different.
Yeah.
God, if we're going to do this in 2018, there's Merry Christmas.
How was
Happy
your
New
Christmas?
Year.
How was your New Year, Sammy?
It's
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
We've been hard at work on developing a pitch for our new feature film. We're trying to raise some funds for it, and so that's what we've been working on. And don't really want to talk too much about it yet because it's still in its infancy as far as development
Don't
goes.
want to jinx it.
Don't want to jinx it, but just want to let you know we're hard at work on it. We've been talking about it for a long time, and one way or another, it will come to fruition. Damn it, we will make our movie. So.
We're either going to make it with $200 or $200,000.
One way or the other, it's going to get made. Usually we like to start the episode off with what's new, and that's pretty much, we're not exactly sure what the hell's going to be new in January. But,
yeah, and plus we're kind of in between festival submissions. Nobody really notifies anybody during Christmas or December. It's we're first of the year. We'll start hearing some more stuff.
We've got about Midnight Shift's been submitted to about 30 to 40 film festivals, and we've gotten into 5 so far. So we've still got a long ways for the festival season for Midnight Shift.
And a short time to get there. I'm in a music mood tonight.
I know. That's a whole other podcast with Chad Hunt.
Yep. Chadwick.
So I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and get right into our conversation on our favorite science fiction films of all time.
This is going to be so difficult if you've got this massive list that you don't have.
It's on the computer. I don't want to unveil it to you quite yet.
See, and I was over here just scribbling away, trying to figure out.
I'm going to throw this out here really quickly. I was, in October, I was interviewed very briefly by a writer who did an article for Sci-Fi.com. The old Sci-Fi channel is now SYFY, not the other way. And I got to be featured in an article about horror films and gore, especially why audiences like gore. And for some reason, this interviewer thought I had good things to say about about blood and gore and why we enjoyed it. So I just want to throw that out there. I have a minuscule amount of sci-fi cred. So
I was like, what was that noise?
we're in Sammy's
minuscule sci-fi.
shop.
Okay, never mind.
And speaking of sci-fi, there's a giant Terminator head and shoulders behind my back, and it's looking at me out of the corner of its eye. I wonder what you're going to do with that thing.
That goes on the top of a Terminator shooting game.
I know that, but I mean, I feel like you should.
It's going to go back on top of the Terminator shooting game.
Put it on top of the building and put a Santa Claus hat on it.
Yeah, that might work. Santa Claus. Well, I got Santa Claus suit over there in the floor too.
You should put that on your front porch for trick-or-treaters next year.
Dun 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 dun.
Okay, so now we're talking about science fiction films, our favorite science fiction films. We're narrowing it down to our top 10.
That was the intention.
It's tough. That was the intention. Now, I have taken the extra step because I couldn't help myself. I've got my top 10 favorites from each decade, going back to I've narrowed it down to like just a few in the 60s and beyond.
That being said, you watch a lot more movies than I do. Yeah.
What is that noise?
That's the Golden Teacup.
Oh, okay.
It's birds.
Yeah, I do. Well, I'm
going to give out. I'm going to come. I'm on my number 7 is, and this crowd's going to go rah.
So how do you want to do this? Do you want to name one for your number 10, and I'll name my number 10, and we'll talk about it? Or?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go that way, and I'm sure, considering we have a lot of similar interests, especially in science fiction. My number 10 may be your number 2 or 7 and 6. Or
I think you actually be surprised.
Really?
Okay. Let me precursor this with the following things.
Okay.
I did not include horror comedies.
Okay.
So you will not see Galaxy Quest on this list, as much as I love that movie. You won't see Spaceballs or anything like that.
Okay.
I did not include comic book movies because I figured that'll be a genre somewhere down the line where we'll do a list.
I totally agree with you there. Yeah.
And it would probably dominate most of the list. I did not do fantasy because I figured we'd hit that somewhere down the line because there's as much fantasy. Most everybody, when they talk about, if you see an article like this on a website, it's like fantasy sci-fi.
You can't include Lord of the Rings in science fiction. It is firmly planted in fantasy.
It's fantasy.
Yeah.
I also did not hit anything that's kind of horror sci-fi. So no aliens, no The Thing. Before you get mad, Chad, it's not going to be on this list. It might be on another list somewhere else down the line. I strictly stuck with sci-fi.
Yeah.
And this is not my top 10 best sci-fi movies. These are my top 10 favorites. Sci-fi movies.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction to make because, there's a big difference between what is generally considered the best and what I like and what you like. So,
and I'm probably going to piss some people off on my list.
You know, Citizen Kane is considered probably the best film ever made. I've seen it a couple times. I think it's okay. I like it. It's fine.
It's all right.
It's not my favorite.
And everybody, and this is all about taste too.
Exactly. Now, one thing I want to mention, since you brought up, different mixing genres with sci-fi. Sci-fi is a great genre to combine with.
Yes.
Horror, comedy.
Yep.
It kind of lends the idea of what is actual pure science fiction. And it's hard to tell. A lot of people over the years have accused things like Star Trek not being true, quote unquote, true science fiction because a lot of those episodes were like morality tales, or they were about race relations in the 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
But masked as science fiction. So part of this conversation probably should be, I don't know if we're going to get into it today, but what constitutes science fiction and why is this science fiction? Why is that not? Or it may be a bigger discussion for another time, but.
Well, no, I mean, we're discussing our favorite sci-fi movies. It probably should be a discussion for now.
Well, I say, why don't we get into our movies and we'll see where the conversation takes us in? Because I do have a few on here that I think you're going to be like, I don't think that counts as just pure science fiction or whatever. But
you're probably going to have somewhere I'm going to go, what the fuck is that movie? I ain't never heard of it.
Well,
and I have moved my top 10 of the list around about 9,000 times. Can I throw some honorable mentions out first?
Sure.
For my list?
I've got honorable mentions in mine.
So some of my honorable mentions are Predator.
Yes.
Mad Max and Road Warrior, both. Total Recall. They Live. Planet of the Apes, the original and the first of the new trilogy. Was that War? No, this one's War.
Rise, Dawn, and
Rise.
War.
Okay, Rise. I haven't seen War yet, so. And Hunger Games.
Okay, yeah.
And The Matrix. Are all honorable mentions on my list.
The Matrix.
Yes.
Okay.
The Matrix. The Matrix.
So, these,
which does not hold up very well.
You know what? I agree with you. In 1999, that movie was awesome as hell.
But it doesn't hold up very well.
In 2017,
which is probably the reason it didn't make the list.
Yeah, mine did. It didn't make mine either.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, my number 10, and I've got to
do honorable mentions.
Well, I haven't broken it down.
Okay.
I have my favorites for each decade.
All right. Get since you can't do a top 10 list, go right ahead.
I did do a top 10, but then I did a top 10 of each decade as well.
Okay.
Just because I had that kind of time on my hands.
Go ahead.
My number 10 is the one that came out last year, and that is Denis Villeneuve's Arrival.
Have not seen it.
Which is so good.
I hear it's good.
It's an amazing film. It was nominated for a slew of Oscars, and I ought to pull up IMDb right here while we're talking, just to kind of go through each of our film.
And I hear, as I was doing what little bit of research I did today to kind of jar my brain, it made a lot of top 10 lists.
If I'm not mistaken, it's currently on Amazon Prime to watch. If you have that, stars Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker, and I couldn't give a better recommendation for it. Even though it is number 10 out of my 10 list, amazing film. It's very much a drama. I literally, I don't like to admit this very often, but I literally cried in the movie theater at this film because it is a straight up tearjerker alien invasion film.
Okay.
Now I will go ahead and say right now, not to spoil the rest of my list, I am not a fan. At least 32-year-old Dan is not a fan of alien invasion films such as Independence Day.
Okay.
It's not on my list. It's not even on my 90s list because I don't like it that much now.
Huh.
Now, when I was in the 90s, I would have been like, oh, yeah, Independence Day is a good movie. I just, if I want to see an alien invasion film, Arrival is the way I want it done.
Okay.
So this is I can't recommend it enough. All right. What's your top 10? Unless you have questions.
Ironically enough, my number 10 is Independence Day.
It is!
ID4.
That's a perfect segue.
The reason it makes my top 10 is past Tombstone. This is maybe one of the most quotable movies of all time. The lines in this movie, I still use to this day. I
think that's one of the reasons I don't like it.
The Will Smith stuff. Harry Connick Jr., every line he says in this movie is quotable.
There's a Michael Bay-ish thing about, and it has nothing to do with the film, but there's a Michael Bay-ish quality to it. Action, there's like it's an action picture. Where if Arrival's a sci-fi drama, this is very much a sci-fi action adventure.
Yes. But just you think you hear the stuff, you see. Plus, it's a stacked cast. Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum being Goldblum.
Yep.
Here I got the redhead. That plays Jeff Goldblum's wife. God, I can't remember her name. Brent Spiner. The crazy ass Randy Quaid. Mary McDonald.
Robert Loggia.
Yeah. Judd Hirsch. I mean, it's just that is a stacked freaking Harvey Feinstein just plays a bit part of this.
Vivica Fox.
Yep. It's I mean
James Duval.
It's just stacked from top to bottom. Plus you look at it and it's going to be this action movie, and you know it's going to be an action movie from from pretty much after the first 15, 20 minutes, when they get in their first little fight with the between Will Smith and his bunch and the aliens, and they figure out that they can't defeat them, and Harry Connick Jr. is, let's kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy. That whole thing. But then you get a very legit, awesome monologue in the middle by Bill Pullman rallying the troops.
That's a tearjerker moment.
That is a kick-ass scene.
I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when the president just learns about Area 51. You know what I mean? He's like, why the fuck have you been keeping this from me this whole time? Like, well, you're on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I needed to know this. I recently saw an interview with Bill Clinton on Jimmy Kimmel Show, like from a year or two ago, and he flat out asked him, is there anything to aliens and stuff? Or, were you ever told anything about that? And he goes, well, I was a little nervous when I saw Independence Day because I was the president then. He goes, and I called my people into a meeting and said, listen, is there anything I don't know that I need to know? Yeah. And they're like, no.
Okay. That's good.
And he asked him, he goes, if there was, would you tell me? And he goes, yeah, sure.
I love this movie. I think it's tremendous. It's a good action movie.
And despite what I said about it earlier, I did love this movie a hell of a lot at the time. Now, growing up, I haven't seen the sequel. Have you?
No, haven't.
I don't know if it's any
good. And have no desire to.
I don't either. I had no desire to see it. Now, as much as I love the original, and I like the idea that it's 20 years later and the aliens come back, but I don't know. Unless you can improve upon it. I'd say don't do it.
Again, I didn't think I should have done it to begin with. But
I think that's the James Cameron method. Yeah. If you can't improve on it, don't. So I'm a little bit hopeful for Avatars.
Okay.
All right, my number 9.
Speaking of movies that don't hold up well, go ahead.
Well, that's my hope is Avatar 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. My number 9 film is 2006's Children of Men.
Not seen it. Heard tremendous things about it, but I've not seen
directed by Alfonso Cuarón,
who is amazing.
Amazing filmmaker.
Harry Potter and
Azkaban.
Prison of Azkaban,
which is my favorite Harry Potter film. He did Gravity, which came out a few years ago.
I've seen most of it, not all of it.
Another one of my favorites. Let me back to it. I'm looking here I've got it pulled up here. Stars Julianne Moore, Clive Owen, Chetaway Ejiofor. Say that twice.
God bless you.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine,
friend of the show.
Yes.
A really amazing film. I as a filmmaker, I've always liked to bring up certain shots and things that I see in a film that I love or that stands out. There's what they call a fluid master shot in this film that I don't see how it could be one actual continuous shot, but it certainly appears that way towards the end of the film, where your main character basically tries to survive and run through and escape a active war zone. That is just incredible. It's awe-inspiring to watch. So, basically, the idea of the film is it's not in the not too distant future, and women have lost the abilities to make babies.
Okay.
And so, essentially, if you think about that for a minute, you get into this world that's almost dystopian in the fact that there's no future. If there's no future, then what are we living for now? You know what I mean? What is everything going towards? And you have insanely high suicide rates in this. People in this film. It's government sanctioned. They hand out pills to people to do it safely, stuff like that. And what happens is in the middle of all this chaos, where everyone's just trying to get by, and there's this kind of general malaise and depression amongst everybody. There's one pregnant woman. And the idea behind it becomes trying to see her to safety, because this is a world that's kind of thrown into chaos, and she's the diamond in the rough. So
where the hell did this movie go wrong? because I've not seen it. I've heard about it, but I've not seen it. It's
I don't
not
know.
on.
I don't know.
What did they market it wrong?
Maybe.
It sounds amazing. But
Maybe.
but it's not behooved me to go see it.
I saw it in theaters when it came out in 2006, and I remember sitting in the movie theater going, "Holy shit, this may be the best film I've ever seen." And I don't know. I don't know why it isn't a bigger film or a more well-known film. It's incredible, and I can't recommend it enough as my last film. So, 2006, Children of Men. I highly recommend it. What's your number 9, Sammy?
It's going to date myself here a little bit, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to give you an absolute answer as why I like this movie so much.
That's half of mine.
It's because it's been a while since I've seen it, but I can't. When I started making this list, it kept popping into my head. It's 1978, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Okay, yeah.
I got another Goldblum, but Donald Sutherland and that movie, everything I remember about it is just tremendous.
It's the rare Leonard Nimoy appearance outside of Star Trek.
Yeah. I remember it being so. It was the first movie. Now you got to remember when this came out, I was 8. I probably saw it right around when I was 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that area. Probably on video cassette, so maybe 10 or 11. But I can remember being like legit scared that we were going to get invaded by these creatures. That I was going to end up in a cocoon and and all this stuff, and not cocoon like Wilford Brimley cocoon. I'm talking like scary.
Another sci-fi.
Yeah. Just not as good.
It's been years since I've seen it. I really want to go back and rewatch it.
And I've seen the original too, which is also very creepy and scary. But
they made another version of it in the last about 10 years ago, starring Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig. But I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
I haven't. But that's
now. Would you consider it more of a sci-fi horror genre? Just straight up sci-fi?
Yeah, I think that's more straight up sci-fi.
Okay.
Which is the reason it made the list and the thing didn't.
You see it get included in a lot of scary films, though. Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
But I don't know. To me, it's
I need to
not.
go back and rewatch it.
To me, it's not. I think maybe for the time it was, but I think now it's not.
Yeah.
Where The Thing is still definitely a horror movie.
Yeah.
And Alien with the monster is definitely a horror movie. But this is not. It's not as scary. Creepy is more the. I think is more the how to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to. I wanted to include it on my list of one of my favorite films in the 70s, but I honestly, it's been so long since I've seen it, I really can't call it one of my favorites.
And what could be any weirder? What could make you feel any worse than to be replaced and nobody knows?
It's a good question.
So how do I know you're the real Dan?
You don't.
Exactly. Okay.
All right, my number 8 is Inception.
Okay.
From 2010. You'll notice
I have seen this one.
The bottom of my list is much more current or newer films, and the top of my list is a bit older. Inception, 2010, from Christopher Nolan. We've talked about Christopher Nolan a good bit on this podcast in the past.
Yes, we have.
He's made some really incredible films, and this is, I think, right there at the top of the list. This is the film he made in between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, I believe. And
probably.
A huge freaking film. A giant $160 million budget film that has some very intricate plot twists and turns, and a lot goes on in this film, and it's essentially about a group of what's a good word for them? It's like a heist crew almost.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who they don't steal from banks.
physical.
Yeah, they steal ideas and they steal thoughts and memories and
Dreams.
They infiltrate people's dreams. So immediately from the get-go, you have to buy into this idea right off the bat from the first minute that this is already an established thing. This is not an origin story of, ooh, we can now get into people's dreams. This is just a thing you can do in this film. Is they have access to people's dreams, and once they're in the dreams, they can control the surroundings. They can build the architecture of where they're at, and the actual story revolves around your main character is hired by this industrialist who wants him to plant an idea in the mind of his competitor, basically to fold up shop.
Yeah.
So it's already an intriguing concept. Very difficult. I can't imagine many filmmakers being able to pull this movie off.
Yeah, virtually
We could
nobody.
never, yeah.
Only the guy that did Memento could pull this off.
Exactly.
Which may be the reason it didn't. I thought about this movie, and it's the reason it didn't even make my expanded list. Is that you have to be a certain level of intelligence to get this movie. And
it's not easy to get.
No,
you have to
and
watch
there was
it a couple
issues. There was points I didn't get.
Yeah.
And my wife was completely befuddled. Not saying she's dumb. It's just her brain doesn't work that way.
It's a tough film to wrap your head around.
It's her brain just doesn't work in that direction.
And very much like Memento, his films are notoriously difficult but they're amazing to watch. It's fast paced. The editing is incredible, and it kind of feels like a Bond film too. I know you're not a James Bond fan, but I am, and you can very much see a lot of the influences, especially the early big Bond films. So this is very much also an action thriller,
Yes,
suspense thriller, with a great, amazing cast. I didn't mention that part. Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, Tom Hardy, Ken Watanabe, Cillian Murphy, Tom Berenger, Marion Cotillard, Michael Caine again. A huge cast, as you come to expect in a big Christopher Nolan studio film. So that is my number 8. What's your number 8?
my number 8 is probably going to be the most controversial on my list.
Nice.
And I flip-flop back and forth between two movies. I have one movie that has moved from 5 to 10 to 8 to off the list. And that movie was The Fifth Element. I watched it last week, and it just didn't hold up as well for me. So my number 8 is a very controversial director also, Signs. M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
His foray into
I forgot all about this film.
to real sci-fi. I think at the time everybody thought The Sixth Sense was his best film.
Yeah.
In retrospect, everybody thinks Unbreakable is his best film. Maybe now Split, but anyway, which is a whole nother animal. But
Yeah.
to me, this may be his best movie. It's got a little bit of a twist. It's not super big, but I mean, he's done an alien invasion movie with literally 2 aliens.
Yeah.
You see 2 aliens, and that's it.
It's more about what you don't see.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's psychological. It shows. It's more about Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix and that family and what they're going through and what's going on in their head, and see how each of them reacts to it differently.
Yeah.
From him being very pragmatic and trying to get, take care of things, to Joaquin Phoenix and the kid sitting with freaking tinfoil on her head.
Yeah.
And the obsession that would happen with something like this, if something like this actually did happen.
Yeah.
It's
very much rooted in
movie.
reality. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love this movie.
it really it hinges upon the incredible acting.
Yes.
Like, this is probably one of Mel Gibson's best performances.
Yep.
And Walking Phoenix. I mean, this is a really great film, right at the height of M. Night Shyamalan's abilities as a filmmaker. Now, let me say...
Not a very good actor, but...
that ain't going to stop him from being in his own films.
Hey, I know that feeling.
But you said earlier he's somewhat of a controversial filmmaker, and I would... Yeah, but only because his films go from being really amazing to
terrible.
Oh, wow, that movie sucked.
Yeah.
Really quickly, let me look into his filmography for just a second.
Because we haven't talked about M. Night, and at some point we will do an M. Night movie. Because Unbreakable is basically a comic book movie.
Yeah, exactly. It was The Sixth Sense, and I would maintain The Sixth Sense is his best film. And then Unbreakable, which we'll get back to that in a second. Then this movie, Signs, and then which is followed up by The Village, which now I think that's where it starts to slip for a lot of people. Half the people who've seen The Village hate it, half the people love it. I'm in the category of loving it.
I like it too. I don't love it, but I like it.
It's a really well made film. It's creepy as hell, and the twist, which I did see the twist coming, still is effective. It works, and if you don't see it coming, I think it's even better.
Yeah.
His next film,
I think Science has the weakest twist, but anyway, that's beside.
I agree. It does, but there's still a good twist in there. Lady in the Water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I will say this.
And
another incredibly well acted film. Paul Giamatti, probably one of his best performances. Bryce Dallas Howard, incredible performance. The film itself is just not very good.
Yeah. So it's in
I
the writing.
wanted to like it so bad.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
It just didn't do it for me. But I will say some of the best acting I've seen from Paul Giamatti, who's an incredible actor. Then he did The Happening.
Killer Plants.
Which is,
Mark Wahlberg and Killer Wheat.
And I kind of like I kind of dig the concept behind it, because which is basically Mother Earth reacting back to mankind, and which is essentially what allergies is.
Yep.
But then he did The Last Airbender, which was another flop. After Earth with Will Smith and his son, which is
super flop.
Another flop. He took a little bit of time off, and he came back a couple of years ago with The Visit, which was a found footage horror film.
I haven't seen it. I hear it's pretty good.
That kind of put him back on a better, but which is a very, very small scale film. He, at the height of his, Signs was probably a pretty big budget film, to my recollection. He made really a ton of money with The Sixth Sense. That was a huge moneymaker. And it's all been kind of slowly, but it's coming back up. Last year he made Split, which is, I would say, a horror thriller. It's not necessarily just horror.
I haven't seen it yet either.
You haven't seen it?
No, which sucks because I know the twist. No, I don't. I know the premise of the twist.
The tie-in.
Yeah, the tie-in with the twist.
So, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but the tie-in is that Split takes place in the same universe as Unbreakable. And that... And the cool thing is... I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah, don't.
But, okay. Right now, they just finished filming the sequel to Unbreakable and Split called Glass.
Yeah.
And it does star Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and James McAvoy. So it is very much a mashup of those two films in its own movie. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry we got hijacked off of Science to talk about director, but
and M. Night Shyamalan.
But
My fault.
No, it's a good point to make though, because he is one of those filmmakers that's very much hit or miss.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
This movie was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
The twist was almost forced. So the ending is the weakest part of the movie. The fact, and it's never really explained why his wife had any connection to this whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
her dying moments.
Yeah. And then the water being their downfall. I don't know. The ending's kind of weird. But other than that, this movie is awesome.
And again, I don't want to harp on this again, but if you like Signs and that alien invasion type film, I really think you'll dig Arrival.
Yeah, I need to watch it. I just haven't.
My number 7 film is Alien. Now, I know this is going to be a little bit controversial for our list because it is very widely accepted as a sci-fi/horror film or horror sci-fi, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend too much time talking about it either because we, fans of this show, can go back and listen to our episode with Jeff Cochran on Alien Covenant, which we did spend a substantial amount of time talking about not only Alien, but the franchise in general. But 1979, directed by Ridley Scott, starring Sigourney Weaver, John Hurt, Tom Skerritt, Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto, Ian Holm. It's got a good cast, and it almost plays like a kind of like one of those whodunit mysteries where someone starts dying off here, and then 10 minutes later, this person dies. Then it's like the story becomes, oh shit, who's next? And it's almost like a haunted house film. It's very much like a haunted house film, but it's a spaceship.
Yeah.
I love this film, and to me,
haunted house / monster movie.
Yeah, it is a monster. Yeah, it's a slow-paced film, but it works. Not to say that it's boring or that but it's not a fun, fast-paced sci-fi action film like some of the sequels. It's a slow burn, dark, frightening film. So I don't want to get too much into Alien because we've already talked about it so much in previous episodes, and you can go back and listen to those. But
which is the reason it's not on my list. I consider it a horror movie.
You may not like my number 6, but what's your number 7?
My number 7 is the oldest movie on my list.
Nice.
By far.
What's that?
1933's King Kong.
There you go. Okay. There was a reason I didn't put it on my list.
And I'm getting ready to make another controversial remark.
All right.
Chad's probably going to kill me for this. But I also like 76's King Kong too.
I do too.
So
when I was a kid, that was my King Kong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was my King Kong too because I was right in that wheelhouse. But I
came on HBO all the time.
Well, I didn't have HBO, but I picked 33s because of what it did for movies.
Yeah.
The ground it broke, the story it told, and sometimes monster movies get kind of thrown into the horror genre too. But to me, and in some points it is. Them is a horror movie. Some of that big monstrous Night of the Lepus is a horror movie. But to me, King Kong is a science fiction movie.
And to be as old as it is, it's really entertaining to watch.
Yes.
It's a short film. It's a very fast-paced film. A lot happens. Let's see. 100-minute film. I liked it a lot. And the only reason I don't have it included on my list is because I genuinely can't say it's one of my favorites. Because I've only seen it maybe twice.
Okay.
But there's something about the stop-motion animation, especially with like the fur, the way he moves, and all that. It seems so real to me in a way that later iterations like the CGI just doesn't. And it's not to say that I don't enjoy those films either. I really enjoyed the bloated 2005 Peter Jackson version. It was good. It was way too long, but it was good. And did you see Skull Island?
No, not yet.
Now that's
the
latest iteration.
Peter Jackson's had its positives too.
Yeah.
That's an entertaining movie. It's not a great movie, but it's an entertaining movie. So it's all the King Kongs have been good.
Yeah.
And again, this movie broke so much ground for its time, and again, it's entertaining. You go back and watch a lot of those old black and white movies like that. They don't all, they're not they're very in their age.
Yeah.
And this is very in its age too, but it still is entertaining.
Yeah.
And it still tells that. It's an age-old story now.
Yeah.
This has become a trope. It's so popular and so used.
And a great final line of the film, "'Twas beauty that killed the beast." Quickly before we move on, I want to say I think, I go to say it now. I can't remember what movie studio that did Kong Skull Island. Maybe it was Warner Brothers.
It was Universal.
I think Warner Brothers has it now, but they're starting their own new franchise, much like what Universal has the Dark Universe. Mm-hmm. They're starting their new franchise with Godzilla and Kong Skull Island. They're all in the same, which you find out at the end of what hell, I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm sorry, I just did a little bit. But my point is, we're going to see King Kong again, to my understanding at least, in 2019's Godzilla King of Monsters, directed by horror director Michael Dougherty. So I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoyed Kong Skull Island. I wouldn't call it my favorite iteration of Kong, but it was pretty damn cool. A very fast-paced action film.
Yeah, it's sitting there on Blu-ray. I just haven't watched it yet. I tried to go see it in the theater, and
that would have been a good one to see in the theater.
Yeah.
All right, my number 6 is again. Well, I think it qualifies as straight up science fiction, and we can debate it a little bit if you want to. But it is 1985's Back to the Future, which was the very first episode of this podcast. We talked about. I would say go back and listen to it. You can, but I think our show has gotten a lot better.
I hope so.
Not to say that it was a bad episode. It's just, we've gotten better as we've gone along. But, again, and I don't want to talk about this too much because you can go back and listen to our first episode. We talk a good hour more about it. But
well, we might discuss it here in a few minutes anyway.
Hey, okay. All right. I can't tell you how much I love this film. Another film that I grew up watching, and it deals with time travel, so I think that firmly plants it in the sci-fi realm. But it's also a comedy. It's also a little bit of a suspense.
I think this is a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. It's very much an adventure film too.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's a really fun movie to watch, and it holds up like hell. For a film that's 32 years old, it holds up really well. Your main character, Marty McFly, it's such an iconic name.
Yes, it is.
Played by Michael J. Fox. Our baseline is 1985, so where the film starts and when the film came out. He, in a time machine DeLorean car, goes back to 1955 to when his dad was his age, and interrupts the time sequence and has to fix it and get things
almost
back on
gets his
track.
mom to fall in love with him.
Almost bangs his mom.
In the creepiest.
In the sequel, he goes 30 years into the future, 2015. Which is, a lot of people have a problem with Back to the Future too. I think it's great. I love all 3 Back to the Future films.
I think if I ever hear anybody fuss about it, it's normally 3. But I think they're all 3 very good too.
I do too. The third film, they go back 100 years to 1885, which is more of a sci-fi western, and I think that it holds up really well as well. I've always said that I have a very when we recorded that episode, our first episode, my second daughter had not been born yet. But I remember thinking it was really cool. I was born in 85. My dad was born in 55, and my kid was born in 2015. So we have kind of this Back to the Future thing going here. Hopefully one day we can all sit down and watch Back to the Future movies together. 3 generations.
That would be cool.
Yeah, from 55, 85, That's and cool. 15. So go back and listen to episode 1. Phantom Menace.
Or hang on just a few minutes.
Or just hang on. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is 1991's Terminator 2.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
T2.
There was a lot of Schwarzenegger that could have been on my list.
Yep.
You heard me talk about Predator. You heard me talk
Predator.
about Total Recall. So I kind of narrowed it down to one Arnold to put on the list, and this was the best. It's Arnold's best movie.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, yeah, it's friend of the show. It's maybe one of James Cameron's best movies, and that's saying something.
Yeah. It's certainly the best Terminator movie.
It took a good idea
Yeah.
with the Terminator and kicked it up a notch.
Twisted it around.
Kicked it up, and made it just a kick-ass sci-fi movie.
So Arnold plays the Terminator, who's the villain of the first film of the Terminator.
Yep.
In this one, they did this amazing twist where he's basically the same character, but he's a good guy in this one.
Yep.
I was very fortunate. I just saw this film in the theaters in 3D a few months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got to see it.
When did I miss that?
I don't know.
You didn't call me and tell me?
I was in Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
And I was like, I got to kill a few hours here, so maybe
Yeah.
I'll go down to the movie theater.
I couldn't drive to the beach.
It was
I was
really...
in the middle of October. I couldn't have done shit.
Well, no, this was back in maybe August.
Oh, okay.
But it really held up. I was a little worried because I've never seen it on the big screen. I've seen the film a million times. This was the first DVD I ever bought. Me and my brother.
Okay.
It was Terminator 2. And I remember just devouring it, just watching the movie over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we already had the VHS and I watched that shit until it warped out and couldn't play anymore. But I'm sure you've done the T2 ride at Universal.
Oh, yeah.
That's a cool thing. Is it
That
still?
they're tearing it down. I think they're tearing it down now, or retrofitting it or something. I don't remember what's going in there, but yeah, they're redoing it.
I had nightmares as a kid watching of Robert Patrick in that police officer's uniform, just stabbing through somebody. That scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, that ride and the movie is tremendous.
Real quick,
Also, one of the early this and Alien are early girl power movies.
yeah, absolutely.
Linda Hamilton is definitely the hero, while Schwarzenegger, she's more the hero of the first movie, but Schwarzenegger kind of helps her out to be. She's a flawed, heroic
Yeah,
female.
yeah. Real quick about the franchise here. I'm gonna try and do this from
Here
memory.
they're doing a new one.
So we got Terminator from the 80s. It was 86, 87?
Yeah,
something like that.
that.
T2, Judgment
84.
Day. 84. T2, Judgment Day is 91. They finally made Terminator 3 without James Cameron, Rise of the Machines, 2003?
Yep.
2003?
2003, yep.
And then they did, McG made a really horrible film called Terminator Salvation in the 2000s too. I can't remember.
09.
09, which I hated with Christian Bale. And then was it Genesis? Which was 2015, 2016?
Well, the TV show.
Yeah, if you count Sarah Connor Chronicles, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
And then the last film they just came out with, last year or 2015, Genesis.
Spelled in a weird way.
Yeah, I had a lot of hopes for that film because the trailers looked cool. It took characters or the new actors and put them back into the 80s and the 90s, and then it did its own thing and just was not a fun movie to watch.
I hadn't seen it, so
You're not
I was
missing much.
going to watch it, and then somebody reviewed it, whether it was Horror News or somebody, and just panned it, and I was like, oh, screw it. I ain't
Same
got that kind
director
of time.
of Thor: The Dark World, Alan Taylor. It was kind of cool seeing Arnold fight Arnold, which was neat. Which is why I always thought Terminator 3 should have been
Yeah.
a good Arnold versus bad Arnold,
Yeah.
which was not what they did. And now they're making a new one. I don't know what it's called.
It's not titled. Untitled Terminator
James
Reboot.
Cameron is supposed to be involved somehow. He's not directing it, but he was involved with Genesis.
This is writing it.
Well, he was somehow involved with Genesis, like executive producer or something.
David Ellison, and David Goyer. Oof.
Yeah, so I don't know. If
With Arnold and Linda Hamilton back.
Yeah, no, I did see Linda Hamilton was involved. So that's cool.
Yep.
That's cool. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to judge it prematurely. It could be the best Terminator film ever, but it won't be T2, I'm pretty sure.
No, I'm pretty sure it won't.
My number 5, again, is another film we've talked about already, which is Blade Runner. 1982's Blade Runner. Again, you can refer to our episode about a year ago. Directed by Ridley Scott.
Well, you'll see why it's not on my top 10 list.
All right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I discussed why
it didn't hold up that well for he did it. Based on...
I like the movie, but my nostalgia was a lot more than my current viewing was.
To my recollection, Sammie liked it a lot in his head, and then when he rewatched it for the podcast, liked it less.
Yes.
And I liked it more.
Yeah.
Because I did a little bit more deeper dive into it than I usually do with my research, because it's one of those films that, again, it's a tough film to get. There's a lot going on in it, and thematically, story-wise, there's a lot going on, and I knew there's a lot to it, but I never really understood it, and you need to go back and watch or listen to the episode to really get a more of a explanation of the film. Now, I will say, if a film requires that much thinking and explaining, that it probably makes it problematic.
Yeah.
But there are. I think it's actually a fairly decent adaptation of the book. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, which I enjoyed as well. Now, again, I don't want to talk too much about Blade Runner because we've already done it, but I will say I thoroughly enjoyed Blade Runner 2049, the sequel.
Have not seen it yet.
Which didn't do well at the box office, unfortunately. Again, from director Denis Villeneuve, who did Arrival, a really amazing sci-fi film and a worthy follow-up to a sci-fi classic.
I think that movie, the first one wasn't a big hit. It's developed a cult following.
The new one isn't either.
Yeah, so I think that's. I've heard nothing but good things about it. So.
Yeah. So again, go watch Blade Runner. Watch Blade Runner 2049, and put your thinking cap on.
Yeah. Not as much as you have to do with Inception, but.
No. Now, what's your number 5, Sammie?
Previously discussed Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Yes.
I kind of wonder even if it should be higher on both of our lists, or at least my list, than whatever it was, because it's such a damn good movie.
No, it shouldn't be higher on my list.
It's so.
Would you see the rest of my list?
Yeah, it's such an enjoyable film.
Yeah.
And we don't have to get back into it again, but all right.
Good movie.
Number 4 on my list. I know this isn't going to touch your list. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
No.
I know you're not a fan.
No.
Let me pull this up. I liked this film ever since I was a kid. Now, not many kids my age probably enjoyed this film because it is a 2.5 hour slow film.
Slow?
It's painfully slow.
Painfully slow.
But I think that's what I dig about it. And you need to go into the film like you're almost like you're watching kind of like you're watching an opera. You're not necessarily even going to understand it.
I hate opera too.
Well, I'm not saying I'm
this movie better than I do opera
myself, but I'm just saying
I like this movie better than I do opera, but still.
I think probably the best way to watch this film is on the biggest screen you could possibly get with a loud sound system. Watch it with the overture. Watch it with the intermission, as it was intended by the director Stanley Kubrick. Based on a story by Arthur C. Clarke, which I even read the book when I was a kid. That's how much I enjoyed it. I was a big Arthur C. Clarke nerd when I was a kid. Long story short, it takes place in the distant future, 2001.
Way in the future. I mean, it was filmed in 1969, so that was
so it makes for the time.
In the future.
Now, I will say, for the time, this movie was a special effects marvel.
Yes.
Nothing. Audiences hadn't seen a film like this, and this was a huge special effects film. I think a lot of it holds up. Now, there's no computer effects in this film, to my knowledge. Maybe some kind of weird effect, but it's again, like some other films we've talked about, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. But there's a mysterious monolith object, which is basically an alien creature, it's an alien being of some kind, that we initially see millions of years ago at the dawn of man, which somehow explains how primates went from monkeys to getting human attributes and violence and all this. And then we see it in the distant future, 2001, where it's somehow responsible for a missing colony crew or something like that. It even infiltrates the spaceship's computer, HAL 9000, and which becomes some of the best parts of the film. I think is when HAL decides he's gonna kill the astronauts. That's some of the best film right there. All it shows is this lens, this red glowing lens, and you hear the voice, the disembodied voice, but it works so effectively. HAL 9000 saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave. You're going to kill me if I let you out of this room." and he slowly kind of picks his way through the crew, and it ends in a way that is not easily explainable. I can't explain it. There's this giant.
Can anybody but Stanley Kubrick
giant baby? Maybe Arthur C. Clarke could have done it.
Maybe
from his compound in Sri Lanka. Admittedly, a difficult film to understand and process, which is, I think, why it's not on your list. But
what are you trying to say?
What I mean by that is, I love this film since I was a kid, and I'm one of those people. I don't have to explain why I love something to know that I love it. That was my original thinking under Blade Runner, because I always liked Blade Runner, but I couldn't explain Blade Runner to you. So
seems to be a lot of that on your list.
There is.
I can't explain it to you, but I like it.
I like shit that goes over my head. I don't have to understand it.
I don't.
So what's your number 4?
This movie probably wouldn't have been as high on my list if I hadn't seen it last week.
Really?
Yeah. It probably would have made my top 10. And this may be a more nostalgia factor for me than anything else.
Older film. Okay.
Older film. This is my slow burn movie on my top 10 list.
All right.
1970. Hang on. Got it. 1977.
Star Wars.
Got overranked by Star Wars. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Was that 77?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it got way overshadowed by Star Wars.
I was thinking it was 75 or 76 or something, but
no, it was 77.
77.
Yep.
Damn, that same year, summer as Star Wars.
I had to go look it up.
To my recollection, Close Encounters was really big until Star Wars, and then it got totally overshadowed. But it made a lot of money still.
This was one of the first movies I saw in the theater.
Really?
And there's a slow spot when they're in front of the ship and they're going through the whole music thing, and it's just slow and quiet. Slow and quiet, and slow and quiet. Now I'm 7 years old. They have spellbound me with this movie until this slow and quiet, and slow and quiet. And my dad, in the middle of this, gooses me. I screamed bloody murder.
Oh, my God.
Because I was so into that movie.
Yeah.
The fact that they used a real location like the Devil's Tower, and wrapped it into this, and a group of people almost going crazy, and wrap it in an alien story, is awesome. I love this movie. I have a picture, a Polaroid picture of me in a yellow Close Encounters of the Third Kind T-shirt.
That's cool.
As a kid.
This was Stephen Spielberg's big follow-up to Jaws.
Yep.
And it was a pretty big film at the time, starring Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss again.
Friend of the show.
Yep.
And it's a very personal film. I mean, it deals with these big things like almost an alien invasion sort of deal, but a lot of the film centers very closely with Richard Dreyfuss as this husband and dad who is obsessed, who becomes obsessed, and like you said, is almost driven crazy by what he's seen and what is in his head.
He's making his mashed potatoes into the Devil's Tower, and it just
doesn't know why.
No
one knows.
He's made a model of
wife,
it. He's got no way of communicating what he's feeling, other than it's centered around this tower. He's driving his wife crazy. Dee Wallace Stone.
Yeah. Terry Garr's in it. She's very good.
Well, no, that's what I meant. Was Terry Gar, not Dee Wallace.
She's in E.T.
Yeah. Which almost made my list too.
I could recommend a documentary on HBO right now about Steven Spielberg, where they go into a pretty good depth about this and a couple other films, exploring.
I heard about this.
It's a really good documentary, but they talk about the sort of the psychology of Steven Spielberg coming from a split family, and how a lot of his films are about that on a very personal level, or about issues with his father, his mother, stuff like that. And there's a lot of those themes in a lot of his films, and this most especially Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Again, I would highly recommend this one as well.
That the scene on the railroad tracks where the spaceship, he kind of flies over him and then comes back and almost runs him over. I love this movie. Absolutely.
So that was your number 4, right?
Yes.
All right. My number 3.
Number 5.
All right.
No, number 4. You're right.
I was about to say, I'm off somewhere.
Number 4.
All right. My number 3, and I don't know if these are going to make your, because you're not a big Star Trek fan.
No. Well, I mean, I like Star Trek, but I like the TV show better than I do the movies.
And it's funny. I love the TV show, but mostly in hindsight, I grew up on the films, and it's just the age I grew up in. My favorite of all 13 Star Trek films is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Won't disagree with you.
In 1982, I think it's generally held as one of the best, or if not the best, Star Trek film. Directed by
a lot because of the acting, but yeah, go ahead.
Ricardo Montalban.
Yes.
Amazing as Khan.
Yeah.
I still cannot help it. Every time I meet someone with the name of Khan, which is not that uncommon of a name, really.
Not anymore.
I cannot help but just mentally go, Khan!
which has offended every Indian person on the planet.
And I can't help it.
Damn it! But why did these people make this movie?
Oh, God.
I hate that fucking movie.
Khan Noon Singh is played by Ricardo Montalban. And this is really...
Boss de plane! Oh, wrong. Wrong Ricardo.
Right, yeah. This was very much a change of pace from the first Star Trek film, Star Trek the Motion Picture, which was almost like 2001. It was kind of a long, slow-moving science fiction film that didn't make a whole lot of sense to audiences. Now, I still like Star Trek the Motion Picture a whole lot, but this is... Wrath of Khan is very different in pace and tone.
Yes.
And it's more like the show, I think.
Yeah.
And it's such a good movie. Now, all right, I want to test. You can attest to this. I don't have my computer up in front of me. I'm gonna see if I can list all the Star Trek films.
Okay.
In order.
Okay.
All right. You got the motion picture.
Yes.
Wrath of Khan. Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. Star Trek 4: A Voyage Home, which is a lot of people's favorites. Now, there's a theory that the even Star Trek films are the best, and the odd ones are the shitty ones. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory, but Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Then they stop naming them because they start integrating with the Next Generation cast with Star Trek 7 called Generations, which is, I think, is a pretty damn good one myself. It's one of my favorites. That's where we see the death of.
It may have been the last one I've seen, but that's.
Oh God!
Well, no, I saw the remake, but anyway.
Well, that's where we get the death of Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
And I did cry. Okay, Star Trek: First Contact, which is a pretty damn good one too. That's more of an action adventure sci-fi film.
That's the Borg one, right?
The Borg,
okay.
Yeah. And then it starts to kind of go downhill with Star Trek Insurrection, which is the 9th installment, and just kind of meh. It's like a large episode of the TV show, The Next Generation. Then Star Trek Nemesis. Again, that's the first time I've ever seen Tom Hardy in a film. He's the villain. So that's kind of cool. And that's like 2000, so it's kind of early in his career.
Don't know I knew that.
That ends the second iteration with the Next Generation crew. Then we came back with the remake, or the reboot of just Star Trek, with Chris Pine and those guys, and then Star Trek Into Darkness, which brings back the bad guy of this one, Khan, which is honestly, a lot of people hate Star Trek Into Darkness, but I think it kind of complements Wrath of Khan in a really neat way. And then the last film, Star Trek Beyond, which is the 13th installment.
Damn.
Which I enjoyed a lot. I thought it was pretty damn good.
I haven't seen the last two.
They're not bad. I'm a Star Trek guy, and I like them both, so I like them all.
Cool.
Okay. What's your number 3?
I'm going again with another old man movie. This was way before I was even born.
All right.
1956. Gojira.
Ah.
Yeah. You'll see a running theme with my stuff. I like monster movies.
Yep.
And this is, and if King Kong's a maybe sci-fi movie, this is a definite sci-fi movie. You've got a lizard that climbs into some radiation and comes out a monster with radioactive breath. Unfortunately, I don't know that I've ever seen the actual original Japanese version from '56. I've seen the American remake where they put Raymond Burr in a wheelchair. No, he wasn't in a wheelchair. That was one of the TV shows. Anyway, they put Raymond Burr in it, and the little Japanese twins and all that kind of stuff that they added in for the American version. But
so the version you're talking about is not Gojira from '54. It is, because I'm on IMDb trying to track down which one you're talking about.
Right, I think that's right. It's the '56.
Okay, let's see.
Which was
there's been about a billion different Godzilla films.
Yes,
if you look,
and I like IMDb. A lot of them.
What did you think of 2014's Godzilla?
I liked it.
I did too.
I don't know why it's gotten some hate since then.
It has. It was well received at the time, but I think in hindsight, a lot of people look back at it and didn't like it. I thought it was a pretty great film.
I think the 54 version is the right one.
That from my understanding, that's the old Japanese cast.
No, it's 56. Okay.
Okay.
That was right, I think.
Now, I haven't seen it, and I'm really dying to see it, but I've heard nothing but good things about 2016's Shin Godzilla.
Well, and I've heard mixed. I've heard it's terrible, and I've heard it's great.
From what I understand about it, a lot of the people who don't like it for the reasons that I probably will like it.
Okay. That makes sense.
It's not a big action film, much like the much maligned 1998 version, but it's more of a people sitting in an office talking film, which might might do really well. I've heard really good things about it. I'm dying to see it. So, but the original Godzilla,
It's got to be the 54 version.
from Japan.
54 was remade. Maybe it was brought over here in 56. But Godzilla King of the Monsters with Raymond Burr. Yeah, that's 56.
Okay, but the original Godzilla is very much a reaction to the atomic age,
Yes.
and Japan's handling of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
And America had already started going into this stuff with the aforementioned Them, and that was the Ant movie. There was a butterfly one or something.
Mothra.
No, I was talking about American. There was a bunch of American giant-size monster movies.
Yeah.
Spiders. Anyway.
Yeah, the 50s was full of that kind of stuff.
So this was kind of Japan's
monster films
version of that kind of stuff where we've set off a nuclear bomb and radiation has caused Godzilla to happen. And this is the Godzilla that it should be. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's not this lovable good guy that the comics and the my beloved Hanna-Barbera made into this cute little lizard. And,
you've got some pretty cool Godzilla toys too.
yes, I do.
Some old ones. Yeah.
I've got the original 70s 12-inch.
Isn't there a wheel on the tail that he moves?
No, there's a wheel on his feet, so
his
he
feet.
rolls.
Okay.
And then
He's balanced by his tail.
Yeah, his fist shoots.
His fist shoots out.
And he flicked the thing on the back of his head, and his tongue sticks out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but this is Godzilla was one of mine and my dad's kind of bonding things.
Yeah.
And we watched. We watched this one, then we watched Rodan, and then we watched Mothra, and then we watched Mechagodzilla, and the Smog Monster, and then the Creature Island one, and it's Godzilla's been around for years.
Is Godzilla really the start of this whole phase of these big monster films, these big guy in a rubber suit films that kind of did really well and has had a lasting?
Yeah, definitely for the rubber suit stuff, because that was a very Japanese thing.
Yeah.
So that led into the turtle. What the hell is his name? The flying spinning turtle.
I don't recall.
Shit. I just drew a blank because I used to watch it all the time too. And it's also kind of led into stuff like the original Power Rangers TV show, Ultraman from Japan. Yeah. That kind of, it's always kind of led into that stuff. Because you look at Godzilla, and they've done this now with Pacific Rim on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
But what could beat Godzilla but a giant mechanical thing? Mm-hmm. So that led into Shogun Warriors and stuff like that. So it's all that Japanese.
Yeah, you absolutely wouldn't have Pacific Rim
without. The Godzilla's great. Gojira.
All right, my number 2.
My terrible Japanese.
Is The Empire Strikes Back.
Ah, okay.
Because you have to have a Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite Star Wars film.
Yeah, my top 10 could have been almost all Star Wars movies, so I had to. What I did was took the best of the best.
Yeah, and I definitely think it is. Was it 1980?
Because spoiler alert, we know it's one of my top 2.
It's in there, isn't it?
Yes. One of the Star Wars movies is.
Now, again, a lot of people could, and a lot of people have, and maybe you're included, can really break down these films and point out why these films or this one's the better one of the 3. And I certainly think of all the films, the original trilogy is better than the new one, the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
And then you've got this new one, which remains to be seen where that's going to fit in. I think it's going to be the new one's going to be pretty damn good though.
Looks good.
Well, we've already seen it by now.
Yes, we will.
But not by the time we're recording this.
It's amazing. I just jinxed it, didn't I?
Knock on wood. But I've always gravitated towards this film. It's a little bit more raw. It's darker, and it has a cliffhanger ending, which as a kid, I appreciated because I didn't have to wait 3 years to see it like you did. I had the. When I got this as a kid, I had the trilogy in a box set on VHS, so I could just hit eject.
And watch the next one.
I didn't have to wait 3 years to find out what happens to Han Solo.
Meanwhile, in the past, Sammy's going, I gotta do what?
Yeah.
When's the next movie coming out?
So, you've told me about going to see the original Star Wars as a 7-year-old or whatever.
Yes.
And you have any recollections on Empire Strikes Back?
Why? What the heck? You cannot do this movie now.
Yeah.
Because people will go ballistic.
With a cliffhanger, you mean?
With a cliffhanger. You just they're so, you look at the fervor around this movie now.
Yeah.
If you left it with a cliffhanger, holy hell, you would have people just riding. Well, you saw it 2 years ago with the Walking Dead season finale.
Yeah.
They left it on a cliffhanger, and people went freaking ballistic.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they were mad. They were cussing people. You know, they're sneaking around trying to find out hidden cameras and buying people off, trying to get the script and shit.
And not only a cliffhanger, but major story revelations like, I am your father.
Yeah.
You know,
I am your father.
So this whole revelation that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker. And from what I understand, a lot of people at the time didn't quite buy it. They didn't know if it was just a ploy or if it was actually the case or what.
Yeah.
It's cleared up very much in Return of the Jedi.
So you've gotten Lando turning on the crew, who you thought was a friend. So you have betrayal.
Well, you introduced Lando.
Yeah.
Who's a really great character.
Yeah. And then turns on him.
Yeah.
Turns on his best buddy. You have the revelation that Leia has feelings for Han. You have the revelation that Vader has told Luke that he's his father. Luke's lost his hand. He's been beat.
Jedi trained by Yoda.
Han's been left in carbonite and given over to Jabba. It's not just one cliffhanger. It's a whole laundry list of cliffhangers.
I think it was a perfect follow-up to the original because it takes it in a darker tone, which is what it needs. I think if we do the same type of film as the sequel, it's doing it a disservice. You got to change things up a little bit. You know, I think they could have gone different places with it, but they went in this darker area, which I think very much serves well.
Yup.
Okay, what's your number 2?
Keeping with my theme of my top 10, maybe the greatest monster movie of all time, 1993's Jurassic Park.
Hey, there you go.
You know, by this time I was a little bit older. I was in my mid-20s or approaching my mid-20s. But to me, as someone who grew up on Godzilla, who grew up on King Kong, who grew up on Harryhausen's stop motion stuff with Jason and the Argonauts and which we may talk about when we talk about fantasy stuff, or Sinbad and Clash of the Titans, to see those dinosaurs walking around on a movie screen like they were really there,
pretty amazing.
Was amazing. Yeah. The 6, 7, 8-year-old in me was screaming, even as a 23-year-old.
The 8 in me was screaming because I was 8.
Shit ass. So yeah,
I was 8 when this movie came out.
It's awesome. Another Spielberg movie too. I've got a lot of Spielberg on my list. Now that I think about it, I didn't think about it.
He does sci-fi well.
Yes, but it's a Michael Crichton novel, and I love Michael Crichton too. Yeah, I did too. I did too. So it's the story is great. You've got
ILM at the peak of their game.
Yep. You've got good acting.
The score.
You've got a great
John
score.
Williams.
You've got great special effects. You've got 2 bad guys with the Raptors and Jeff Goldblum.
He's not a bad guy.
Well, he's not a bad guy, but he's an antagonist.
No.
Yes, he is.
Ian Malcolm's not the antagonist.
He's a antagonist.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he's a troublemaker.
Well, he may be a little bit of a odd character, especially when it comes to relating to the other characters. But I mean, I see Wayne Knight as being really the antagonist.
Yeah. But Goldblum he's just
he doesn't get along with Sam Neill's
maybe it's
Grant.
just the fact that I just didn't like him. I like Jeff Goldblum. I didn't like that character. I like the character. He's a heel. He's a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He's the kind of person you don't want to like.
Yeah, I don't.
It's an asshole.
Yeah. So he has moments where he's an asshole, but he also has moments where he's kind of redemptive. He does have some heroic moments, like when he distracts the kids, the dinosaur from the kids, and ends up paying the price for it. He gets a little bit gnawed on by the T-Rex, you know.
A little
gnawed on. Great cast: Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Richard Attenborough. These are
Samuel Jackson,
Wayne Knight. These are not only good actors, but interesting characters. You know, I think Ian Malcolm is a very interesting character. You know, he's annoying to a point too. Yeah. You know, the laugh that's been turned into a rap meme over the years, and he's got the really great line that I just referenced the other day in real life. That I was talking to someone about their vasectomy. Is that when the testicles get snipped?
Yes.
Okay, vasectomy.
So you can have babies.
I said, that shit doesn't always work. Nature finds a way.
Nature finds a way.
And he's also the lead character and the lead hero of the sequel, The Lost World. Mm-hmm. Again, based on the Michael Crichton book, which is not nearly as good as Jurassic Park. But it's still directed by Spielberg, and
it's okay.
Does its own thing. As a different.
I don't mind 3 either.
I don't mind 3 either. But it's certainly not as good as the first or the second one, in my opinion. Jurassic Park
Sam
3
Neill and Laura Dern.
Now, how did you like Jurassic World?
Have not seen it. Oh wow! Sitting there on my Blu-ray.
There's plenty of people that I hear. Most people are very positive. They love Jurassic World. I liked it a lot.
It made a ton of money.
It was a huge success. I liked it a lot. But next year, if I'm not mistaken, they've got Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which I don't like the subtitle, with the same people and with adding Jeff Goldblum back into the mix. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now, the only reason I don't have this included on my top 10 list is because when I look back on it in my head, I feel like it's more of an adventure film, more of an action-adventure film.
Okay.
And the sci-fi, to me, doesn't feel like sci-fi because it's explained so well in this film. The DNA scientists testing and pulling it. They find a way to break it down for the audience where you go, oh, that could work. So it's probably 100% bullshit, but in my kid head, I'm going, that could absolutely work. That could totally work. Why don't we do this?
Well, yeah, but can't all sci-fi be explained?
I don't know.
It shouldn't. I mean, it's science fiction.
Yeah, but when you get to,
shouldn't it technically be?
Maybe.
I mean, have you seen the new robot in
Sophie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, exactly.
Scary stuff.
So how close is that to AI or Terminator or,
But
Skynet's coming.
I think to me, I think it's. I looked at it and was like, why aren't we doing this? And then I watched the rest of Jurassic Park and was like, oh, that's why. We can't. We can't have an island full of dinosaurs.
Yes.
Okay. That was your number 2, right?
Yep.
My number 1 favorite science fiction film of all time, Planet of the Apes.
The original?
The original.
Okay.
Don't care for the remake with Tim Burton.
Oh, well, yeah. I wouldn't even count that. Although I don't mind that as bad.
I can't tolerate it.
It doesn't kill me.
Now, let me say, I'm not a particular fan of the series because you've got a whole slew of 8 films.
Well, they're not all great.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape of the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. not even counting this new trilogy that we talked about earlier, which I think was pretty damn good. The original, starring Charlton Heston, who's, I think, at the peak of his game.
Oh, no doubt.
Roddy McDowell.
At the peak of his game. Well, not at the peak, but
he's still pretty great.
Yeah.
I love this film, and the thing that stands out about Planet of the Apes for me, and probably why it's my number one, was the feeling I got when I first saw it as a kid at the end, when the ending hit me.
Talk about a twist ending.
Yeah, that's a hell of a twist, and I'm yet to be surprised and like have the goosebumps that ending gave me.
That was a twist ending without the scare.
Exactly. Yeah, the scare had already happened.
Yeah.
So this, what it is a group of astronauts go on a mission where they go through like I don't know what they call a hibernation sleep in the film, and they wake up. They've crash landed on this distant planet that's where human beings are like animals, and apes are like human beings as they know it. They talk. They have towns, societies. They ride on horses. They have enslaved the humans. And here comes this surviving astronaut played by Charlton Heston, who can speak and who is intellectually on the same level as the apes, if not higher. And a lot of, think about 1968.
But he's hurt. He can't.
He can't.
Hurt?
Yeah, he can't. He got shot early in the film by an ape with a rifle, and he can't necessarily speak. And later in the film, he kind of regains his ability. But the big twist ending is, and also Rod Serling, I'm a big fan of him. He co-wrote the script. The big twist ending is at the end of the film when he has made his deal with the apes. He's won, and he's riding off into the sunset on his horse with his girl. And they're riding down the beach. He's left the colony of apes. He's going to go do his own thing, and he comes across it, and it hits him like a brick. And then the audience is let in, and then we're hit like a brick. You see the Statue of Liberty sticking up out of the sand. I'm getting goosebumps just telling the story.
Yeah.
And he falls to his knees and pounds the sand and goes, "God damn you all to hell! You blew it up." So it's 1968. A lot's going on.
He's on Earth.
A lot's going on. Yeah, he's on Earth the entire time. And we, the audience,
way in the future,
and him are thinking this is some distant planet he's crash landed on where everything's topsy-turvy. God, I can't tell you how much I still love this film. But again, I haven't seen it recently, and it may not hold up as good as it did when I was a kid, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I do like the New Apes films as well. I just saw War not too long ago. War of the
I haven't seen War yet, but.
And it's pretty good. Matt Reeves.
Again, it was in my honorable mentions.
Yeah. So
it's I really enjoy it. I enjoy the TV show.
Never saw it.
I have the comic books. It's everything. The TV show was more about the apes than it was anything else. But
now I kind of wish I could get a little time machine myself and see how audiences thought of the special effects makeup. Because even in the 90s as a kid, 30 years after this, I'm thinking that's kind of shitty makeup, But I liked it at the same time. There's a realness to it because it's actual actors in makeup. It's not but the new ones, it's all computer generated motion capture, which that's cool as hell too. It's just it's just apples and oranges,
Yep.
So.
I think it's great. For its time, it was the makeup was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It was something that had never been done, and it's still very, very good.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that one.
Your number one science fiction film of all time is
a movie we've already discussed. Yes,
it's got to be Empire.
Empire. And I flip flop sometimes between Star Wars and Empire.
Yeah. It's damn good too.
Yeah, Star Wars is really good, but of the three, Empire I think it's the best made movie.
I think Star Wars is a better film, but it's not my favorite of the trilogy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and actually, part of the reason that it's my favorite of the trilogy, and may still be my favorite of all the Star Wars movies, is what a lot of other people hate about it, and it's those endings, those endings that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I like. I'm a little more old school. I remember. I didn't listen to the radio serials, but I knew about the radio serials. Mm-hmm. I was a big fan of the Batman '66 TV show, which always ended in a cliffhanger, or almost always ended in a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It's. I told Zach it's part of the reason we did not win the 48-hour film festival is because they didn't understand what a serial was. Indiana Jones kind of brought that back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's these cliffhanger endings where you didn't know how it was going to end.
Yeah.
Where you had to wait to find out what happened.
Mm-hmm.
There was maybe I've mentioned it on this before on the podcast before. There was a TV show in the late '70s, and it was literally called Cliffhanger, where it was actually 4 different stories, and they'd show one a month. So I think the first story was about a killer car, and it would end on a cliffhanger, and you would have to wait till the next month.
Oh wow!
Not even the next week. The next month when that story came back around.
Wait like a day or two.
Yeah, well,
it was like 2 a week.
Yeah, it was 2 a week for a time. But yeah, you literally had to wait a month.
You had to wait a month.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Found that at
Star Wars made you wait 3 years.
Yeah.
That's like. Well, nowadays, you may get there was kind of a cliffhanger at the end of Force Awakens, I guess. I mean, it ends where she's making the gesture and he stands there looking at her, but you only have 2 years to wait.
It's not really a cliffhanger.
Not really, but I mean, the point is you only have to wait the other. They're making Star Wars every year now, and then the actual franchise is every other year. The saga.
I think the last time I saw something remotely close was my buddy Mark and I were sitting in a movie theater by ourselves, and the first Lord of the Rings ended, Fellowship, and Sam and Frodo are standing on top of that mountain, and Frodo looks at him and goes, "I sure am glad you're with me, Sam." And Mark goes, "Is that fucking it? Is that it? That's where it ends at?" I was like, "Yeah."
I remember that was the audience reaction too.
I was like, "Yeah, it's a perfect stopping point."
It is good. Because what it says is, "Buckle up."
Yep.
That was just the beginning. We're getting ready to get deep into this. It's going to get a lot worse.
And the middle Lord of the Rings is a lot similar to Empire Strikes Back. It's darker in tone. It doesn't really. You end on a cliffhanger with it. You really don't have a lot of stuff settled at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on that all kind of gets wrapped up in Return of the King. But anyway. Empire is my favorite of all the Star Wars movies.
Mine too, yeah. Do you mind if I go through my decades? I'm only going to go to the 80s.
Yeah, that's fine.
I won't go back any further.
All right.
I'm going to kind of, they're in no specific order, and some of these you may debate on whether or not it's actually sci-fi or it should be included, but I'm going to go ahead and, 1980s, E.T., the extraterrestrial.
Yeah, E.T.
should be pretty high on
pretty
most
close
sci-fi
on my
lists.
list too, yeah.
RoboCop.
Yeah.
Cheesy. Cheesy as hell, but yeah.
Cheesy.
Escape from New York.
I thought about that one too. And Escape from L.A.
Yeah.
That's 90s, cheesy too, but yeah.
#1, Duke of New York. Predator. We talked about that earlier.
That was on my honorable mention.
And here's one where we kind of debated a little bit. The Thing.
Yep.
It is horror, very much horror, but it's still very much sci-fi as well. It's another kind of an alien invasion film, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. Invading some bodies is what he's doing.
The Fly.
Yeah.
Another remake, like The Thing.
I considered that one.
Jeff Goldblum.
That's kind of borders to.
Yeah, that's right there at horror as well.
Yeah.
Spaceballs, which is another one we said was too much comedy to be strictly sci-fi.
Yep.
Looking at the Spaceballs poster on the wall right there.
Yeah.
Another comedy that's too comedy to be strictly sci-fi, Ghostbusters.
Yep.
Which is my favorite comedy of all time, but is very much firmly in science fiction as well. I mean, you have portals to different dimensions opening up, and then beings coming in, and
Demons, Gozer.
It's not
friend
just,
of the show.
Yeah, Gozer, friend of the show. It's not just ghosts. It's interdimensional beings. And this is one you're probably gonna disagree with. Masters of the Universe. Cheesy as hell, but
I think it's more fantasy. Oh,
it might be.
Yeah.
But it's again. It's one of my favorites because it's from my childhood, and I loved the shit out of this movie when I was a kid. We rented this all the time. The Dead Zone, one that doesn't get as much love as it should. A good Stephen King adaptation. Christopher Walken. Incredible performance by Christopher Walken. One of my favorites. And Martin Sheen plays a really...
I don't ever think about Stephen King being sci-fi, so that's probably an oversight on my part.
That's a tough one there to kind of put, maybe
it's not
suspense.
in any kind of category at all.
Honorable mention from the 1980s, Howard the Duck.
Oh my God. That movie is terrible.
I love it, though. Love it.
Love Leah Thompson's hair, but that movie
and
is terrible.
He's not enough of a hero to really be. It's a comic book. It's really the first Marvel comic book film, but you can't really call him a superhero. He's not really a hero.
He's not.
He's just kind of his own thing.
Yep.
All right, honorable mention. All right, we're up to the 90s. The Matrix we talked a little bit about earlier. Won't get too much into it.
The Matrix.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which didn't quite make my top 10 list, but it's certainly in my top 10 of the 90s. Being John Malkovich, I believe that's 99. Now, this is a film that may fall in more in the line of fantasy. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Back when it came out? 20-something years ago?
Yeah, I hadn't seen it since, but...
I liked it a lot. Basically, there's a portal in an office building that leads you inside the mind of John Malkovich. The actor. One of the weirdest, craziest movies you'll ever see.
It's weird.
And I enjoyed the hell out of it when it came out. Dark City. We briefly talked about it on the Crow podcast. Yeah, I'd like to talk about it. Rufus Sewell, I think is the star. But we should talk about that sometime. That's a underrated movie.
I think maybe I saw it once.
Yeah, I've only seen it a couple times, but it's the X-Files, which I know you're not an X-Files fan, but this was the 98
Fight to the Future.
Yeah, this was the
or is this
between season 5 and season 6. This was the big screen adaptation, which actually fit into the story of the show.
Okay.
It's funny talking about cliffhangers. Season 5 ended with a cliffhanger. Then you get the movie, and then they pick back up in season 6. So there's it works as a solo film, but it also works in the storyline of the show.
Interesting.
Jurassic Park, Men in Black.
I'm very close to making my list, but I consider it a sci-fi comedy.
Well, I think it's very much science fiction, but it's just...
it's definitely science fiction.
In hindsight, I just don't think it makes the cut, really. I just don't think it's that good.
I love that movie.
I love it, too, but I despise the second one. And the third one is tolerable. Yeah. It wouldn't make any kind of list to me, the second or third one. Starship Troopers. Yeah, that was a crazy-ass movie.
Boobs.
Very, what was that, Paul Verhoeven?
Yeah.
Director.
Casper Van Dien.
RoboCop. Very, a cool action war film. Mm-hmm. Contact by Robert Zemeckis, based on the
Jodie Foster does an amazing job.
Oh, God, now I gotta say his freaking name. What's his name? Who did the show? Now, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Who did the show?
Yeah, the TV show. Who wrote the story for Contact? Why is this kicking my ass?
I don't know.
Carl Sagan.
Carl
Sagan. Okay, yeah, based on the book by Carl Sagan. Really interesting themes going on in that film. Another film that's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. Number 10, Gattaca. Which is a film I haven't seen very much, but I like it a lot. A weird film, some very heavy, dystopian future.
There's some weird 90s stuff going on. That, Johnny Mnemonic,
I haven't thought about that. Virtuosity was a shitty movie, but yeah.
Some weird sci-fi stuff going on.
My honorable mention is Mr. Science Theater 3000, the movie, which is the big screen version of the TV show where they did This Planet Earth, which is in its own right a pretty good science fiction film from the 50s.
Yeah. No, there was some old stuff I could have really got into.
Oh yeah,
Metropolis is a good movie.
They're good. I just don't ever consider them my favorites. I don't rewatch stuff that old usually.
Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Fantastic Voyage almost made my list.
Yeah.
One where they go into the body.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is a good one.
Yeah.
The 2000s, we have Minority Report, another Steven Spielberg sci-fi film based on the...
Consider that one.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Avatar.
Yep.
I think it's good for
I don't
list
think
of
it
the
holds
2000s.
up very well, but yeah.
Still to date, isn't it the biggest box office film of all time?
No, I think Force Awakens passed it.
Did it? Okay, so it's probably number 2 now.
Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oof.
You ever see that one?
No, I haven't, and I should be ashamed of myself because I have a buddy who's in it. Sorry, Mike. If by some weird deal you listen to this podcast, which I very much doubt, I'm sorry, I haven't watched it yet.
From the writer of Being John Malkovich, this stars Jim Carrey, where kind of the sci-fi element of it is you can pay this company to delete memories from your brain. Like he gets his heart broken by a girl and he wants to have her deleted so he doesn't have to feel that pain. A Scanner Darkly. I enjoy that
Animated.
film. Animated. So it how did you describe it? It's shot and then animated on top of what was shot.
I mean, it's almost screen captured or something. Yeah.
Great cast. It's Robert Downey Jr., Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder, Woody Harrelson, several others I'm probably missing. Richard Linklater film based on a Philip K. Dick novel.
It's a dick.
A film about drugs, about drug addiction.
Oh, yeah.
And very much.
Force Awakens way ahead of Avatar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 936 to 760.
A Scanner Darkly may be one of the most underrated films of the 2000s that I would highly recommend.
It's a very good movie.
Another Steven Spielberg film from the 2000s, War of the Worlds, the H.G. Wells adaptation, which I think
not bad.
Pretty good.
That's not bad.
Danny Boyle's Sunshine, I think that's 2009. You ever see that one?
No.
Sunshine's incredible. It's set in the future. The sun is dying, and they send this spaceship crew to the sun, basically to give it a jump start. And of course, things go wrong. Shit happens.
Of course.
And they become man's last hope of survival. And some pretty tough choices need to get made, and things get really hot the closer they get to the sun. Really interesting film. Solaris, directed by Steven Soderbergh, the remake of the 70s film. And it stars George Clooney. Again, another underrated science fiction film. And this is much more of a sci-fi drama film. You ever see Solaris, the new one?
No.
I saw it when I was a teenager, probably 18, 19, whatever, in theaters, and I was getting over a heartbreak. I had a girl dump me, and I went and saw Solaris and cried in the movie theater. Moon. Did you ever see Moon with Sam Rockwell?
No.
He is. It's very similar to Solaris. Actually, he's the only person. And it's killing me. I can't remember. He's either on a spaceship or he's on a space station on the moon, and he's the only person there. And it's him for the entire film, and it starts slowly going crazy, and he starts seeing another Sam Rockwell on the same place. And
okay,
interesting sci-fi film. Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
This is an interesting film that really plays with themes of time travel.
Yeah.
And that's another film that's tough to get.
Tough to wrap your head around.
But it's really well made, and it's really interesting film. And I can't recommend Donnie Darko enough. And we're going to wrap up the 2000s with another Steven Spielberg film. This was his decade for sci-fi, I think. Artificial Intelligence.
Yeah.
a futuristic film.
I've never seen this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Why the hell not?
I don't know. It was kind
couldn't-
of. I think it was
went
we
past you
were
at the
playing
time?
ball
Yeah.
all the time.
What
and
came
didn't have
out?
any.
Uh,
I own it. I don't think
it
I've
came
seen
out
it.
like 2002,
Yeah.
2001. I mean, it's kind of old.
Well, that would be Ashley would be 12 and Morgan would be 10. So that was right at the beginning of our ball phase.
Haley Joel Osment. So this film was intended to be made by Stanley Kubrick, but Stanley Kubrick died, and so Steven Spielberg picked up the reins and took over, and it stars Haley Joel Osment as a robot, a child robot, who's programmed to love his mother, and Jude Law plays a prostitute robot who's programmed to give the ladies the love, and
We love you a long time.
this movie goes into some really interesting places that would really surprise you, I think, and really another heartfelt kind of film. And then my honorable mention for the 2000s is The Fountain,
Have not seen it. I've heard a lot of stuff about it.
which also might qualify as fantasy. Hugh Jackman, Rachel Weisz. Really good film. Okay, I'm gonna try and blow through the 2000, the teens, we already did the aughts. Now there's the teens. Gravity, we already talked about, from Alfonso Cuarón. Really amazing film. Sandra Bullock, George Clooney. Incredible film. Looper, which I thought was pretty damn cool.
I've heard good things about it. I've not seen it.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt
Yep.
plays a young Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is in it. It's directed by Ryan Johnson, who's doing The Last Jedi.
Yep.
Really dark film, really cool. The Martian, directed by Ridley Scott, the adaptation of the book, and Matt Damon stars in it with a huge supporting cast. Incredible film, The Martian. Ex Machina,
I've heard good things about that.
very good film. I enjoyed that one a lot. That one again also deals with artificial intelligence, starring Donald Gleason and what's his name from Star Wars? I can't remember. Too many. Speaking of Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Even though we talked about Empire, I think when we're talking about the 2000 teens, The Force Awakens is certainly. And we also did a 2-part episode on it, so
Yep.
you can go back and listen to that. Interstellar by Christopher Nolan.
Have not seen that one.
Really great film, which delves into the whole idea of traveling through wormholes and stuff like that to a different parts of the universe. Mad Max Fury Road.
Have not seen that one.
Oh my word!
Yeah, that's a big hole in my. I don't know. That one kind of slipped me by.
This whole 2000 teens is you got to get on these. These are great movies too.
Yeah.
I'd say it's the best Mad Max movie. I think it's better than any of the original ones.
I hear it's.
With Mel Gibson. But Tron Legacy. Now, I think this is a better film than Tron. I don't think Tron's that great, to be honest with you. I think Tron's okay. But Tron Legacy was pretty damn cool, I thought.
Well,
Jeff Bridges
and I was
really
just sitting
awesome.
here scrolling through Box Office Mojo looking at price, at money and stuff.
Yeah.
And it hit me that neither one of us had mentioned either one of the Trons.
Yeah. Well,
Because
that's where it falls on my list. In the 2000 teens, yeah, it's on the top 10.
Yeah.
But I don't think Tron is that great in hindsight.
It's dated.
Yeah, so what makes Tron sci-fi is people get sucked into a video game and they have to participate in the video game to survive, and it's pretty cool. The World's End, which is kind of a robot.
We've talked about
Invasion
that. I ain't
movie.
seen this one either.
It's a robot / alien invasion movie.
You're going to have to make me sit down and watch
I know.
some Simon Pegg.
Yeah, well, the thing about this one is, even though it's not really a sequel, you got to watch Shaun of the Dead first, and then Hot Fuzz, and then you got to watch The World's End. A group of friends who graduated in like 1990 go back to their hometown to finish the 12 pub crawl that they didn't finish. So back when they were teenagers. So now they're in their 40s. They go back to drink 12 pints and make their way through town. And as they're doing so, they realize things aren't aren't right, and they slowly uncover this alien invasion plot where everyone in town has been replaced by robot replicants of themselves.
Westworld.
Kind of like Westworld. Movie is freaking hilarious. Really funny movie, but really a good sci-fi film as well. And then the Blade Runner 2049, which we talked about earlier. I won't talk about that again, but that is definitely in my top 10 as far as this decade. And we're only 7 years into the decade, so... and then my honorable mention for the 20...
And 4 more Star Wars movies.
Yeah, we got 4. I didn't even talk about Rogue One or yeah. My honorable mention for the 20-teens is Her, which is another futuristic AI type movie.
Okay.
Really good, and that's a love story / sci-fi / love story.
Okay.
Starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Everything has to have a love story in it.
Well, makes the world go round.
Yes, it does.
Scarlett Johansson plays the voice of the.
Well, I'm in. Oh,
but it's just the voice.
Damn it! Never mind.
But it's
Isn't she in Ex Machina too?
No, that's Alicia Vikander, I think.
Okay.
So, anyways, if you're looking for some good sci-fi films, we have given you a shit ton here to listen
Holy hell.
to go out and watch.
Dan did a lot more research than I did.
No, I didn't do any research.
And I don't know that I would have come up with that.
I just put together a list of what I like. These are just my favorites. So, I did no research for this episode. It feels good.
It's cool. Now you know how I feel all the time.
I think we should do more of these top 10 episodes. I like doing this.
I agree. That's this came. I thought about having a couple weeks or a month to do this. Yeah. When you popped up and said, "Hey, let's record it tomorrow.
Let's do something."
I was like, "Oh, okay."
I got a little bit of time tomorrow. How about we podcast? I'm jonesing.
Yeah.
I need to hit a podcast.
I need to hit. So
if you guys like this, let us know what you think about it. If you want us, if you got any topics you want us to do.
Disagree. If this is the reason I brought up the list.
Yeah.
Most guys like lists.
Yeah.
They like talking about lists.
Yeah.
They like ranking stuff. And so if you disagree, send us your top 10s. Jeff, Chad.
I know y'all guys have top 10s.
All our regulars.
If we had Chad on this show, this would have been a 3-hour.
Oh my God!
Or Jeff, or any of our regulars. God, this would be a long.
And we've been
episode.
arguing and fussing and.
I don't think we could have a guest for our top 10. This would just go on too long.
I don't think we could.
But I'm sure we'll do horror and action and drama and comedy,
fantasy and comedy and comic book movies.
Comic book especially.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. If you like this, let us know. We're always trying to find something that'll please the audience.
A little behind. Well, actually, it's going to be a little ahead, but behind now.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Justice League. I know I bang on DC Comics a lot, and I hated Man of Steel, and I didn't like Batman vs. Superman, but I like Justice League.
Did you?
I liked it almost as much as I did Wonder Woman.
Oh, wow.
Shh, don't tell nobody.
See, that's interesting because you remember how we had disagreeing opinions on Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman? I didn't really care for Justice League that
really?
much. Yeah, it didn't. It just kind of bored me.
When Superman is standing in the field, and Lois comes out to talk to him, and he turns around and he smiles. I went, "That's the fucking Superman we've been wanting. Where has he been?" And from then on out, it was Superman. I was like, hell yeah, he's joking. He's serious, but because Superman's never a jokester like Spider-Man.
Sure, yeah.
But he's smiling. He's enjoying being Superman.
Yeah.
Now, if this was some great big story arc just for him, fuck y'all. It sucked.
Yeah.
Man of Steel, you didn't have to kill to get this far. But this is the Superman I've been wanting.
Yeah.
There was some stuff. There were some issues with it. They way overblew the Wonder Woman bikini stuff because there was like 6 girls. The rest of them were regular.
Yeah.
There was some lingering butt shots, but don't talk to me about lingering butt shots when all the women want nothing more than Jason Momoa without a shirt on.
Oh, well.
So you can't talk shit about
But the women
it.
are badasses in this film. Everyone from Amazon, they could kick anyone's ass.
Yeah. Except for Steppenwolf. That's the biggest issue with this. It's a Josh Whedon villain. Josh, get your villains right, man. Loki's the only villain you've done that's been any good whatsoever.
I think this film really,
and that's more Hiddleston than it
was done a disservice by having two directors at the helm, and
it was done a disservice by the fact that freaking Zack Snyder had any hand in it whatsoever.
Well, you got to remember this is like a $250 million movie, and it feels like a film that was edited by committee. It seems like you had a whole room of studio execs
there was
sitting
some
in there
arguments
going, I want to trim this up, or I want to make this. It doesn't feel like a singular voice to me. It feels like a hodgepodge of opinions and thoughts, and we got to make this movie perfect because so much is riding on it.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. And honestly, I walked away with it going,
I liked it.
I was a little bit bored by it, to be honest with you. Now I want to go back and rewatch it.
It was short.
It was short.
It was succinct. I liked it.
I did not care for Danny Elfman's score. It pissed me off.
Oh, really?
Pissed me off.
Huh.
Because he brought back John Williams' Superman score briefly, and he brought back his score for Batman briefly, and it's bullshit.
I say it didn't bother me.
I say leave him alone. You got your own thing going over here with Hans Zimmer. Go in that direction. If you're going to go in it, go in it. Don't look back in the past and bring that bullshit up. That's not Michael Keaton.
People love nostalgic shit too.
But that's a whole different thing. That's Michael Keaton. It pissed me off.
They love that stuff.
But I can look past that because it's not a big part of the film. It's it's tiny little bits and pieces, but things like that piss me off. So
people love nostalgia.
I'm looking forward to rewatching Justice League because I think I could be wrong. And I'm one of those people that has to watch a film 2 or 3 times to really get a good opinion.
I barely got time to watch it once.
I mean, same here. I don't know when it'll happen, but someday I'll watch it again and I'll have a more formed opinion.
My base opinion, Morgan and Dan, I went to see it, and my brother-in-law Frankie went to see it Saturday night.
Yeah.
And Friday night. No, we went Thanksgiving night.
Did you?
Yeah. That's become our thing. 2 years ago, last year we were in Savannah. 2 years ago we were in Florida, and we went to see X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh God!
So, or maybe it was Days of Future Past. No, I guess it was Apocalypse.
It would have been Apocalypse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like JLA.
Well,
or JL, I guess.
JL.
It's not JLA.
Can't be American.
Comic book people.
Where can our listeners find you? I would say audiences. We're not that far yet. Where can our listeners?
We have not made it that far up the line.
Where can our listeners find more of you and your opinions on science fiction films?
More of me on the dark side of the moon. You can find me at all the social media at Sammie Castle. Check out Sammie the Comic Book Man Facebook page. He may be right after the first year be making a couple of appearances and making some headway there again.
Very cool.
And we might have some announcements coming up before too long about possible Sammie the Comic Book Man news.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. So hopefully, maybe by the time this episode drops, we'll have some news, but it'll be too late.
No, that's true.
You can find us on Instagram, Wreak Havoc Productions. I'm on Twitter at Hank vs. the Undead. And you can find everything we're up to on Facebook at our various pages, and links to everything at our website, wreakhavocproductions.com. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with a actual movie, not just a hodgepodge of
so
stuff.
much for me getting out of here early.
Yeah, I know, right? That was the plan, and it almost never happens, but oh well. We'll be back, and I don't know. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
I hear you, Casey.
Good night.